What's going on, guys? JSGC here, and we are here for another Manchester City video. This time we're going to be covering the Manchester City transfer update, giving you all the latest happenings in this January transfer window. We're still going to have a fair few more videos out this month, so make sure you stay tuned for that one, and make sure you subscribe and press the bell and put your push notifications on. We're going to crack on with these videos, and as always, we're going to be talking about the ins, and it's going to lead us first to Frenkie De Jong. Hooray! The saga is done. The merry-go-round, it continued. Ajax was saying that they wanted €90 million. Manchester City had pulled out a long time ago due to financial fair play investigations. That is a little bit true, actually. We've had confirmation since then that Manchester City pulled out because they wanted Frenkie De Jong's wage demand were way too high. They have a strict control on their wage budget, which means they don't want to pay over the odds in wages for players. Otherwise, all the other players at Manchester City would then be demanding more money, and then it'd get out of control. So Manchester City are very strict on their wage budget, and so he was demanding €16 million, I think it was, a year, which is way beyond what Manchester City were prepared to pay. And obviously, because Barcelona's won the race to sign him, they were prepared to pay him that amount of money. Now, Sky Sports have said that the deal's worth around £70 million. I think it's around £65 million in a fee up front, and then a little bit more in add-ons. His dad wanted him to join Barcelona, and so that's why it's happened. I personally thought he'd have joined PSG, but obviously, if Barcelona were prepared to match what PSG were prepared to pay, his choice was always going to be Barcelona. And I feel like it's the best choice for Frenkie De Jong because a nice passing team, a nice attacking team, and there isn't a lot of pressure for Barcelona. They play some very big games, but the physicality and the pressure-wise, it isn't really there for him. It's competitive enough, unlike the French league at this moment in time, for him to be able to enjoy his football. However, it's not as physically demanding as what the Premier League would be, and so players like Kevin De Bruyne are really suited to the Premier League, whereas someone like Frenkie De Jong, I feel like Spanish football and La Liga would probably suit him a little bit better. So, yeah, I'm happy that saga's now finally completed. It means we can move on to our many other transfer targets. You remember Pep saying that he wanted or had a list of 3 or 4 players of defensive midfielders that he wanted to target, but it's very difficult replacing the quality of Fernandinho. I'm expecting a few of them players to be players like Ndombele, like Aura, and also players like Declan Rice too. So they're players that are getting linked with Manchester City at the moment. They could be 3 of them 4 players that Manchester City may well be chasing. I'm sure over the coming weeks and months we'll find out more about their midfield targets and who them players are, as I imagine City will press ahead to try and sign that midfielder. But all we do know, Frenkie De Jong isn't that midfielder for Manchester City. Now, moving on, other sources in the Netherlands have been saying that now Frenkie De Jong's joined Barcelona, the next focus of attention turns to Ajax's next best prospect, which is Matthijs De Ligt, the centre-back, very young, very physical, and a very good central defender, a centre-back he is. Barcelona were meant to be front-runners for him, however, Barcelona apparently aren't in that running anymore. Manchester City are now the front-runners, and at this moment in time, the only team showing any kind of serious interest is Manchester City, and we've got Nicolas Otamendi being unhappy. We'll get onto that further in the video, and Vincent Kompany getting no younger. Might Manchester City be targeting a centre-back in Matthijs De Ligt and having complete that little young trio of young defenders in trying to slowly replace players like Otamendi and Kompany with players like John Stones, like Aymeric Laporte, like possibly De Ligt, like players like Eric Garcia. That may be the future of what Manchester City target. We don't know just yet, but we'll keep an eye on that one, I am sure. Now, next up, Manchester City have been heavily linked with Everton's Soares. Now, I've not really covered this because I couldn't really find much information on it, but I managed to get a little bit more on the deal, so I can talk about it a little bit more. But he plays for a team called Gremio. He's an attacker or a striker or a winger, so basically just a forward. 22 years old. He's been doing very well in Brazil over the last few months or so. He's been linked with a move to Manchester City, £55 million. Personally, I don't see it. I don't see Man City targeting any attackers in the upcoming year or so for Manchester City. I see us possibly targeting a centre-back. If they're wanting Vincent Kompany to leave, if they put him on like a 1-year extension, then obviously I don't think he'll do any more than the year. And there is a possibility Otamendi may leave in the summer. Then that leaves us short with 1 centre-back. We might be looking at a left-back. We've heard that before, and we know we're looking at a defensive midfielder. So an attacker I don't really see as being an option for Manchester City, so I'm not too sure. I feel like maybe Gremio are wanting just to link him with some clubs over in Europe to try and get some demand for him, but Gremio are saying that they don't want him to leave just yet. They'll assess the situation, but they're waiting and seeing, basically. He did fall out with Gremio. He unfollowed them on Instagram. He's since made up with them, and so it's one of those where if there's enough demand and a bid comes in and they're serious, there'll be room to negotiate to sign him. I don't think it'll be Manchester City, but I think he'll end up in Europe within the next year. We'll keep an eye on that, and I'm sure we'll have more further updates on that too. And last but not least, in the ins, Manchester City were linked with Tiago, Djalo of Sporting CP, Sporting Club de Portugal, Sporting Lisbon, the 18-year-old defender. He was linked with Manchester City. Apparently, though, according to Sky Italia and Damasio, he's been saying that an agreement has been reached for him to go and join AC Milan on a free contract where they'll have to pay compensation. So, just like Tiago Dantes that we missed out on, this might well be another Portuguese youngster that we have missed out on, as Manchester City look to bring in more players for the youth academy to bring them through and see if they can end up either breaking into the first team or, of course, profiting. We'll move on to the outs now, and the Sun have been reporting that Bayern Munich are ready to bid £10 million for Manchester City and Welsh youngster Rabbi Matondo. Now, he's been linked with Borussia Mönchengladbach, he's been linked with Leipzig. Apparently, they're prepared to match them bids as well, so we've got some interest there. There is some links with Southampton and Everton in this country, but I think Germany seems to be the focus of interest in this transfer deal, and I'm sure if that move will happen, it will be in January, so we'll keep you up to date over the coming week or so for what's left of the window, and any serious developments on there. Might he end up at Bayern Munich, another Manchester City youngster heading to Germany? That's where we stand there. Next up, we have further developments on the last transfer update with Bernardo Silva being linked with Real Madrid. He's come out into the press and said actually he's very happy at Manchester City. He loves it here. He's having a great time with the young squad, which is nice to see. Manchester City, just to address that from the last video, Manchester City don't sell their best players. They demand a huge fee if they were to sell him. Manchester City won't be selling Bernardo Silva. He'll be integrated into the squad. I personally see him as a long-term successor to David Silva, and that's what he's been brought in for. A player in his early 20s too. I don't see what we're going to benefit from selling him. We're not Real Madrid's bitch type thing. We're not a team that likes selling players. We're not a selling club. So yeah, I think that's just been put to the back burner, and it's nice to see Bernardo clearing everything up there. That was amid reports from last week. I think it was in a couple of the newspapers saying Bernardo Silva was a target for Real Madrid. I'm sure every player though is a target for Real Madrid, but main news is he isn't leaving. Next up, Birmingham Live have been saying that Manchester City could well recall youngster Tosin Adarabioyo and then loan him back again to the Championship to another club to get more game time, because he's only getting limited game time at the moment in the Midlands playing for West Brom. And so Manchester City are thinking about recalling him. If they're going to do that, they might want to do it soon. They'd have to line up another loan for him first before they announce that, so we'll wait and see. Now, next up, the big news is Nicolas Otamendi. He's apparently not happy with limited game time. Pep Guardiola himself came out with these words. He says that he wants to play more, and he's happy when he is playing, but when he's not playing, he isn't happy because he wants to be playing. He sees himself as a key player, and he's growing frustrated with, it seems like Aymeric Laporte and also John Stones being ahead of him in the team. He had a great season last season, Nicolas Otamendi, but growing frustrated this season. Might this be the first instincts and first linkings of Nicolas Otamendi leaving Manchester City? In my opinion, I think he's a very good centre-back, but if he isn't happy and doesn't want to be here, then I'd think about selling him, if that was my point of view, and bringing in someone a little bit younger. I think he's a good centre-back. I think we could still get a decent fee for him. I feel like if he wants to leave, though, that's the main bit, then we don't want players here that don't want to be here, and if he's unhappy at being a squad rotated player, which near enough every player is at Manchester City, then we'll see what Manchester City end up doing about that situation. So I'm sure there'll be more news on that, I'm sure, in the coming weeks, so again, stay tuned for that one. And last but not least, Bolton, he was on the Manchester City substitute bench, wasn't he, for the Carabao Cup game semi-final against Burton. Well, he's gone from the Manchester City first team squad to signing for Wycombe Wanderers on loan until the end of the season, so best of luck to Luke. Wycombe getting themselves an outstanding player there, so it'll be interesting to see his development coming up over the next few months or so. And last but not least in the news, we've got some contract news. Aro Muric, according to The Sun, is set to be rewarded with a new long-term deal at Manchester City, which I hope is true, because in my opinion, once we decide to let Claudio Bravo leave, I presume that'll probably be when his contract's up, or if we decide to sell him, I think Aro Muric would be a fantastic option about having as our backup goalkeeper. And if he wanted to leave, going on a conveyor belt of bringing in more youngsters. We've got good goalkeepers like Daniel Grimshaw coming up from the academy. We could have a conveyor belt of youngsters just going in and sitting in and being Manchester City's new number 2. It fills up a homegrown status squad. It's also a great opportunity for a youngster, so I don't see what's to gain from having an expensive foreign player sat on our bench not to play any games when we've got some brilliant goalkeepers coming through our academy. We may as well utilise them, so I'd really be happy with Muric signing a new long-term deal at Manchester City. So there we go, that's been the video. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget, leave a big thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, press the big red button and press the bell to put your push notifications on to be notified when I've uploaded. My social media links, they're in the description below if you want to go and check them out. My Twitter and Instagram, I'll keep you up to date with all the latest happenings on Twitter and with myself on Instagram in the form of pictures. So if you want to go and check that out, you can. Let me know your thoughts of these deals in the comments below. And also, don't forget, if you want to hit me up with any sponsorships for any videos or anything like that, or any business enquiries, email is in the description below if you want to go and check that out too. And I'll leave links up to my JSGC vlogs and my brother's partner channel, Mixology Drinks. If you want to go and check him out on there, links up to them at the end of the video. And I'll see you all again for the next Manchester City video. So it's been JSGC. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace. Ciao for now.